There we go. Welcome, Wapplers, to our first monthly Wappler Meetup. We want to thank Anthony for his excellent example a couple of years ago of putting a get-together together. And I want to thank George for and the team for permission to hold this event. We're planning on doing this on the first Friday of every month. Jon Stanton, aka Site Street, will be our presenter today. And Bob, I don't know if he's on the call yet, has agreed to do our June meetup. Bob has created a website with a sophisticated back end, 100% built in Wappler that he's going to be demonstrating. I would like to invite the community to reach out to me if you have any topic suggestions that you'd like to see discussed. If you have anything that you would like to present, I would like to schedule the July and August meetings so that people know the monthly meetups are alive and well. So thank you again for joining. Considering the crowd we have here today, I'm going to forego the introductions at the moment. We have time at the end, or people can hang on after the call. We're going to try to button this up, or at least give a break at the top of the next hour so people can sign off if you've got to get back to work. But I also wanted to wish George a belated happy birthday. It was George's birthday yesterday. Thank you very much, George. A round of applause would be in order, but if you wanted to use the reactions and do an applause or thumbs up, that would be pretty cool for George. And without further ado, I want to introduce Jon Stanton of the UK with Site Street. He very boldly and bravely stood up to do a live demonstration in front of all you expert Wapplers out there. So there's no pressure, Jon. I turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. Really good to see some faces put to the names that we see popping up in the community all the time. Just as a very, very quick introduction, I am not an expert, far from it. I've been using Wappler pretty much since the beginning, and have been a Dreamweaver user since, I don't know, the late 90s, and using the DMX products. So when I saw Wappler being announced on Indiegogo, I jumped at it. And have basically followed it through since, but I'm not an expert. And when Mark reached out and asked if I'd be willing to do something, I just thought, well, actually, a CRUD demo is about the most needed thing for everybody, and hopefully it might just give some ways of doing things, but they are definitely not the best way of doing it. So please don't think what I'm doing is the way. And if you've got better ways, great. But hopefully this will be something that will just help us all. So I'm going to share some screens. Hopefully you can see my Wappler screen.
Yes, sir.
And what I've done, I've created a very simple page, Bootstrap 5, just put some containers and columns and whatever in it, ready to go. The database that I've created is a very simple customers one with just a handful of fields just to demonstrate. I'm also going to go at quite a pace because I promised Mark I'd try and get this within 20 minutes. So the idea is to do a start to finish full CRUD system in 20 minutes. So wish me luck. And yeah, because it's being recorded, you can go back to it later and pause to slow things down and whatever. And feel free to shout at the screen because you're muted if I do something and you think, no, that's not the way to do it. But there you go. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of, by the way, I've never done anything like this before, as in an online tutorial. So forgive me if I waffle or whatever. But I'm just going to try and go through it the way I would normally do it and try and annotate as I go. So I'm going to create a folder I'm in the API bit. So I'm going to create a folder, and then in it, I'm going to have my all customers action. And in here, I am going to have my paged query. And it's going to be everything, and I'm going to sort it by name ascending. I'm not doing any authentication. There's no login or whatever, but you can, that's a completely separate thing. So that's why I'm ignoring that. And then in here, I'm going to add one more variable for my filter. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you, this is going live. I've set it in developer mode. So as I save changes, it's going up to a live server. So let me give you the address. Where's my chat? I'm going to put a URL in the chat. In fact, you'll see it here. There we go. So if you want to see it take shape as I do it, then feel free. I'm going to do one more API action, which is my add. Add edit customer. And in here, I'm going to do, basically within the one action, I'm going to do both adding and updating. So I'm going to do an insert customer, and that's going to put everything in there. And I'm also going to do an update. And my condition, I'm going to leave as the default for the post ID. And then I'm going to put in a condition, which is going to be very simply, if my post ID is greater than 0, then I'm going to update. Otherwise, I'm going to insert.
John, we had a couple of comments in the chat about
go for it.
The query builder.
Yep. Sorry?
No worries, you're doing great.
Oh, shall I check the chat? Might want to drag the query builder pop-up windows to the same screen is invisible to us. Oh, hello.
That's all right. It's the first time we've been doing this. We learn as we go.
Okay, I'm gonna start sharing a different way. Give me a second. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Hey, congratulations.
Can you
I
see
the
pop-up?
database updater? Yes.
Hey, right.
All right.
Okay, well done. Whoever, I forget who it was that said that, but thank you.
Awesome.
I'm going to, right, you've seen what I've done in the structure. Basically, the insert is, I've done no changes. It's just the default that Wappler does for me. The update is exactly the same. And I've kept the condition as default. So that's all there. So now it's just a case of, let me move my blooming Zoom toolbars now. Okay. Right. Let's make this work. So I'm going to put in a couple of my data server connects. Now, this going right back to my Dreamweaver days, I could start everything with con. So shocking, I know, but this will be all customers. And I'm going to pick my action for all customers. And in here, I'm going to do the generator table and populate it with my customers. Like so. And then again, as habit, I switch all these on to make it tidier. And I'm not going to show the address because it will be bigger. But everything else I'm happy to show on there. Yeah, that's all fine. So there's our list. And then up here, I'm going to do the pagination. And my data source will again be. So let's get this. I'm not going to do anything fancy with this, except I'm going to make it small. But apart from that, that's our pagination. And I'm going to get rid of that bottom padding margin. And then in the middle, I am going to put in some text. And I'm going to do a good old display. Inner text. And this is going to be our count. So we're going to have a total results. Centralize it. Make the, I've already done that. That's cool. And then over on the right, we're going to have our filter. So this will be an input box. And we'll just call it filter. And I'll change it to search so that we get a little X when there's something in there, and a placeholder, and make it small. And I'll get rid of that bottom margin. So, and then the last bit is going to be our add button. And I'm going to make that a primary and small. Okay, I'm now going to add a data detail, which is how we select the record, and we'll call that customer. And our source is going to be all customers. And our key is the ID. And what I've also done, if I go back to files, I've added a style in my CSS. Oh no, I haven't. I will add a style, and I call it hover hand. Pointer. And I do that so that I can just easily add to my cells the class hover hand, and then you can see that it's clickable. And so now I'm going to add a dynamic event on mouse click. And I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to select my record, which will be based on the ID. And I've got to create my modal. So I'm going to do a dynamic modal and call it add customer. And then there's a little trick I do here where I put in a span and then a second span, and one of them is add and the other one is edit. And then you have to go to the DOM view to be able to put in our display criteria. So with this, I'm going to hide add if my ID is greater than 0. And then I'm going to cheat and in code view, copy and paste it to my edit. And this time it's going to be show. And then in here, I'm going to use the generator form. And my server action would be my add edit customer. I don't want the save button because I've got it in the modal. And the address I want to change to be a text area. Everything else is fine. And I'm going to populate it from my data detail. Oh, it's all back, so let's get rid of the save again. Okay, so here's our form, and we'll get rid of the. Right, let's save that. And now, hopefully, we're starting to see it come together. When I went to Firefox, did you all see that?
Yeah, we can see it, John.
Yeah, okay. I'll do a quick, I'll put one bit of validation in. Sorry, bear with me, I've got. Okay, let's validate this to make sure there has to be a name entered. I'm not going to beautify this. Normally I would do some, I put in a help text to make the text smaller and more beautiful, but for this I'm not going to. And now we're going to make it function. So on our button, I'm going to add a mouse click. I'm just going to rename my connect form for so our on click is going to submit the form. And I'm then going to add, let's add a notifications. And so now in our form, we're going to have a dynamic event, server connect success, and we're going to show a success notification. Customer saved. We are also going to reload our data. And we're going to set our offset so that if with multiple pages, we don't lose where we were. So we set our offset to be the offset it already was. And we set our filter to be our text input filter. And then the last thing we do is hide the modal. So that should be nice and slick. One thing I didn't do in here, I just want to set my filter to be my text value there. And then one last thing that I generally tend to do is on my modal, I add a dynamic event of modal hidden. And in there, I simply reset the form. That just keeps everything tidy. And the last bit is on our add customer. We do our mouse click. And here we're going to set our data detail to be 0 because we're not editing an existing one. And we're going to show our modal. And that should, he says, oh, well, there's one thing I will show. Back in our add edit customer, we're going to link to the index page, get our form, input from form. And by doing that, we will have our validation on the server side as well. So if I actually, this doesn't refresh automatically, but if I go out and back in again, you'll see we've now got our tick boxes to match. So if I haven't forgotten something, we should be able to add a customer, Jon at jon.com, 123 High Street. This is 11AA 01234 123 1212. Save changes, and there we go. And now if I click, oh, I've missed out my, I half did this. Unclick, I've done my data detail. I've now got to do my show modal. And so now, there we go. And if I change it at all, it instantly changes. And in my filter, oh, I've got to add in my all customers in my query. I've just got to add my conditions, which will be name contains filter. I'll just do a couple of these. Email address contains filter. And I'll do one last one, which will be the ID equals filter. Let's save that. And so now let's get this right.
Yeah, Jon, you made those conditions on hand, rather than all.
Yeah. That's a heart-stopping moment. So now JON works, JONN doesn't, and it's all nice and slick, and our pagination works. And so the last thing to finish this off, I'm going to just add one more column. And in here, I'm going to put in an icon, which will be a trash can. I'm going to give it the same hover hand class, and I need to create one more API action, which will be delete customer, and that is going to be a database delete customer. Oh, come back to that. Let's create a variable of ID. Delete customer. For the get ID, and that's all there is to that. And now in here we can add our click event. Again, I would put in a "Are you sure?" message, but for this I'm not going to worry. I need to add the server connect. I do it this way rather. I can do it with a form and do it with posts, but for some reason I've just got used to doing it this way. Delete customer. I don't want to auto load it. Delete customer, and the ID is going to be the ID from our loop, which is in here. Oh no, where have I? Oh, what was I editing? Right. The on click is going to be delete customer. That's better. ID. And then on our delete, we'll just add on the server connect success. Again, you'd add some errors as well. A notification saying customer deleted. We're going to then reload all our customers. Make sure we keep our offset. And our filter. And that's it. And so now if I refresh, hey, James Bond is on there. So in fact, I don't need to add another one. I'm just going to click the trash and he's gone. And that is a CRUD system in not quite 20 minutes. And I think
John, that was fabulous. Thank you so much. You've proven one thing. CRUD with Wappler is easy. Doubling it on Zoom is not. But I want to thank you very much. But before we move on, could you make me a co-host now, since you're the host?
No. I'm
in the participants
to myself. Hang on a minute. How do I participants?
In participants, you want to hover over my name and make co-host?
Yeah. There we go.
Awesome, thank you. And you want to be the last one to log out of here now. Very good. But we have time for a few questions and answers if you do. I know I've learned at least a half a dozen things I didn't know. Thank you very much, John. Open the floor to questions and answers.
Silence.
But why did you choose the data detail? What are the benefits of using data detail?
For me, it's probably habit. Once data detail became available, I've got a feeling from a performance perspective, if there were lots, if we had a list that was huge, data detail would then be quite an overhead. But as far as I'm aware, it only stores what's on the page. So if we had, say, 10 to a page, it would only be having those 10 within it. George will correct me if I'm wrong. But I find data detail gives me everything at my disposal, and it's really slick for the user. Mm-hmm. So rather than, the alternative would be a call to the API to pull in the specific record. And so then every time you click on a different row, you're calling the API again, which to me is a bigger overhead, whereas the data detail has it all there instantly. I hope I've got that right.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. I want to welcome Bob on board here. And I thank everybody again for participating today. We'll be doing this again the first Friday of June. Bob is going to do a presentation on a Wappler site, on a website built 100% with Wappler. And now I would like to introduce our fearless leader, George, who's going to give us some inside information on the new and improved database manager.
Hi.
And Wappler 5.
You can hear me all well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Maybe I can try to share some of my screen, but it says that host has disabled the participation of screen sharing. Maybe you can give some permission.
Why now?
Let me see. Okay. Okay. You
I see Wappler.
Yeah, that's my screen. Let's see if we see the pop-ups.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no. Then it's going all well. Yeah. So I want to show you something more about the database manager that we recently released, actually. And it makes its usage even more powerful. The database manager allows you to manage any database that you will be using, but not only manage it, but also kind of store every changes that you made to this database and its structure, and then allows you to apply them or revert them. And this is really a very powerful addition for the database manager that usually you don't have when you're using other tools, because with other tools you're working straight on a database and you cannot easily revert things. While when you're working with the database manager, you can see all the changes that you have made on your database schema and apply them or revert them as you go. This is especially useful when you're working on a local database on your development computer, and you have live site with a different database, which has to synchronize its schema later on when you're publishing your work. And by keeping all the changes that you have done to the schema of the database listed, you can easily apply them later on to your live database as well. So this was one of the biggest advantage why we built a database manager, because of those versioning of the changes, so to speak. But the latest addition I was really want to talk about is the so-called subtables and multi-reference tables, because with those we made actually using database, especially nested database queries, much more easier than it was before, because you don't really have to be concerned much about relations in your database. You just create the relations as you go, nested in the tables that you're using. For example, before I dive into nested tables, let me show you a simple database which has a couple of tables like students, a very simple one, students list, and courses which the students can take, for example. Let me see if we can see some data in there. Yeah, I have like 2 courses inside, and I have a couple of students in my database. And I have also a table that's called enrollment. So which student is taking which course. So yeah, I have these 3 tables, and as you can see in the enrollments, it only actually refers to the student and the course, so that it points which student is taking which course. And this is done by the reference here. So when I created the enrollments tables, I was pointing student ID points to the reference table, and the course ID goes to the course table. And when you divide your database tables, when you use such reference, it's very easy to do queries later on. So, for example, when I have a simple query here, and I want to query the students, let's maybe let's start from scratch. So I want to query just my students. Let me see if I can open this query. Do you see the output in my browser like this? No.
No, sir.
Oh,
Let me see if I can share a little bit more.
You can select multiple windows to share by holding Shift. But
Really? Yeah, it's that thing about Zoom. I want to really share another additional window.
if you stop the share and share again,
Oh,
you can pick both Wappler and
you share. Oh, okay. Let me see. I can maybe share also this one. Share. Okay. Yeah. Now you're seeing a browser probably.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have a simple query that just lists the student names. Okay. Now back to Wappler. You see Wappler again? Let me see. Or did you lose Wappler?
lost Wappler.
Ah, damn, I have to share all the time. Okay.
See Wappler now.
Yeah. Okay. So we can let me see. Students. Yeah, I'm going to don't want to join. Let's see. Let's start a new query. Yeah, anyway, yeah, maybe I shouldn't go that so much way. But yeah, you can have multiple relations there. I go into the details further on. Maybe with a multi, let me see, multi-reference. So it's much easier when you have a multi-reference. Like here, I have like cars and it has multiple images. Normally, you do a join and stuff like this, but let me see if this goes well. And I'll go. No, this one. It's giving me a headache. Do you see which one? No, not this one.
Yeah, can see it.
Yeah. So you can see the cars and their images and stuff like this. So the purpose of having a subtables and nested queries is actually very simple to make a nested query. Before that, you just have to loop through all the queries and do a nested subquery and stuff like this. But now when you have a subtable or a multi-reference, you can just query directly and it will appear as a nested data below. So it's much more easier in organizing your stuff. Let me go back to Wappler. I think I'm going to.
Can you maybe tell us what it does behind the scenes? Is it doing a subquery?
Yeah, it's doing actually a subquery. You can actually see the subquery here. It's important then they'll make the difference between regular fields here that you can add more if you like. But this one here is actually a subquery because I can remove it and for example, you can see my subtables here. Those are the regular fields and those are subtables like a multi-reference and another subtable that I accidentally have here. But for example, the multi-reference I have here, and it's just a table that in the database is being prefixed by the same name as the parent table. So you have like images within the car. And because this is just like a join table, associate table, you can actually make a subjoin there and from the additional table do actually a different selection. But as you can see, it's actually you're making a nested query. You can see that on the both pop-ups that appear, and you can actually nest as deep as you go. You can from the images, well, depending on your tables, but you can add another one. And there you can see it opens when I'm just double clicking here. So it's very important that you notice when you double click here, then you open the nested query builder and it actually keeps on nesting your data as you wish. So you can have a very different, on each nesting, you can have a different selection, different conditions, depending on the data that you really want. And eventually those are just relations, and each nested pop-up query just do an additional query with the data that merges with the parent one. So when you're when you're querying the data, the structure is just the nested levels that you see. So yeah, like here I have the cars, and then behind the cars I have all the images per car. So it's actually much easier way to structure your queries than doing a repeater and then doing yourself a subquery, because actually when you're repeating the main data and you're doing a subquery inside, you're executing for each parent record, you're executing a new subquery again and again. So if you are cycling through 1,000 parent records and then doing a new subquery for each of them, then you're actually doing 1,000 queries. While with the new subtable nested query in the query builder, you're actually doing just one query for each level. So in my case, when I have one parent query and one subquery, then actually I'm doing only 2 queries. And the query builder is so smart. Actually, the database query action within Server Connect is so smart that it executes the query just for the sub just once, and then it merges the results with the parent record by ID automatically. So you don't have to do that on yourself, and it's very optimal because it executes only 2 queries. So this way, it's actually much more performant and easier to query more complex data actually. So that is why we added the new subtables and especially multi-reference. The difference between subtables and multi-reference is that the multi-reference is actually a many-to-many relation. So for example, in my case, I have cars, and each car can have multiple images, but one image can apply to different cars. In that case, maybe it's not so good example, but you can easily make many-to-many relations with multi-reference. And as you see here, actually all the keys you just specify, oh, I want the multi-reference to the images table, and all the keys and bindings are done actually automatically for you. If you're really curious about how this is done, you can always switch to advanced mode in the database manager, and then you can see how the binding is really done. We hide those implementation details in the basic view, but just by switching to the advanced mode, you can see that actually those multi-reference subtable from images is actually referenced to its car's parent by ID. So it referenced to its parent, and also it referenced to all the images that I have. It's another main table. So this is the typical thing of multi-reference. They are just associative table, junction table, so to speak. Then they usually have 2 references inside, one to the parent and one to the other table that they're referring. So you're actually creating many-to-many relations with easy. And that is very easy because you don't have to make all the different references. You just pick that you want to create like a multi-reference, and then you can pick to which other table you want to reference to, and everything is created automatically. While just a regular sub table, let me see, I had for example, invoice is a very common use of invoices is to have an invoice with properties, but then with invoice items. This is a very common case. One invoice has more items or lines, as they call them. So you have multiple lines for the same invoice. And by implementing those as a subtable, well, they are nested within the invoice. So when you're fetching invoice, you can directly fetch all the items inside. So usually you have to do like 2 different queries. Oh, I want to fetch the main invoice properties, and then the sub table, the invoice lines as a separate query. But now you can very easily collect those data at once with a single query actually. So that's the features about subtables and a multi-reference in database manager. Of course, we have many other improvements, but let me see if I can show you a different project, maybe.
George, can I just ask, please?
Yeah.
Underneath images, you've got ID, and that ID is for cars and everything else. Now, normally I would have put in the image ID. So does that mean that if I use this system, I cannot name that image ID? I just leave it as ID?
Well, you can choose actually to use image IDs as well. For our main naming convention, it's usually good to stay at lowercase and use IDs as a primary key for each table. This is, I think, the default if you create a new table. Let's say something, and it automatically create ID, and you can add more fields. But the ID is the default. You can choose to name it like table name underscore ID. Like in my case, it will be testing ID underscore ID. But it's all up to you how you name it. I think we let me see. We have introduced some options in the general Wappler options about the naming conventions, and you can choose there when you go to the global options and then database. You can choose whatever you want to use, the snake case, which is actually the default, or Pascal case. But that's really more about preference, how you want to name your things. And when you choose a default snake case, then everything is named with lowercase and with an underscore to separate the words, so you get like user underscore ID. But in some databases, people prefer really to use uppercase to separate the words. So if you choose to use Pascal case, it will all start with uppercase and then other. But yeah, it's about your personal preferences, and also maybe you're using a third-party database that already has some convention in it, so you can change the Wappler preference. We don't have a preference option yet, indeed, for the ID. If you want to preference it with the table name, we were thinking about that, but the direct problem was that if you later on rename the table, then we have to automatically rename all the IDs as well to be more conformant. So that's why we left it. And when it's called just ID, then you can rename the main table, but the ID stays the same. So that's why we went for the ID convention initially. But it doesn't really matter, because whatever you made it's as long as it's marked as a primary key, then it's been picked up by all the other. So if you're like making a reference to that table, it will automatically pick up the primary key, no matter how it is called. It already finds the primary key, so it says, oh, that is the identifying key of this table. So it will use it as a reference if you're referring to that table.
That's not a problem, George. It's been here, by the way.
Yeah, I see.
The thing is, I certainly don't mind leaving it as ID, but if I were to make it say testing underscore ID, what happens to the renaming when I include it in as a subtable elsewhere? Does it again use the name of the table, like will it change it then into testing
Now, if you
underscore
use it
testing
as
underscore
a
ID?
it will pick its name indeed. So it will reuse the same name indeed. So if you use it on a different table, it should pick the name and then yeah, use it there as a preference. So do you mean if you add it as a reference, or yeah, you can you're naming the reference as you wish actually, so it doesn't if I made the testing and then yeah, you're just picking to which table, and I was just creating the testing table, and it will actually I'm now in basic mode, so you don't see the ID, but if you go to the advanced there, you can choose the whatever ID that you have. So it will just use that ID, so it doesn't really matter. The same is actually valid to most of the properties. That is why let me see if I can quickly switch to a different database. I'm having here, for example, a Postgres database, which is much more complex. And let's see if I can. So we are actually analyzing the database as it is, and this database, for example, has a lot of junction tables and stuff that are all prefixed by the usage. So for example, you have affiliation and documents that belong to that affiliation and events that belong to that affiliation. And actually the database manager finds automatically those related tables, and especially their junction table, and names them here automatically. The same is, for example, here I have documents, and yeah, there are a lot of subtables that are automatically detected because of the database structure. We're just looking for the table name contents, for example. It is now placed under documents because the real table behind it is called documents contents. And then we see that it's automatically related to the table. So it's all being grouped by yeah, the right structure and the right table. So you actually, no matter what database you have and how it was made, the structure will be automatically detected, and those subtable relations and injection tables will be also automatically detected. So it doesn't really matter if you create your database with a database manager or with other tools. We are actually analyzing it and displaying it actually more logical because of the relations that we automatically detected. So everything is structured in more logical way. You can see that yeah, you have an event, and then you can see the documents that belong to this event. So everything is a little bit more better organized than just a single list of all the tables. You can see the relations by just following the nesting structure. We are actually even thinking of grouping things like because of the prefixes. For example, in this case, they have a lot of tables that are all related to ice hockey, for example. So it will be even easier to put them in a group called ice hockey and then leave the ice hockey prefix and just show the table within such a group, just like what we did here with the multi-reference subtables. We just leave the prefix there. The actual tables are called events underscore documents and events underscore media, but because we see that they really belong to the events, we have stripped the prefix, and yeah, you see only yeah, the table name that really matters. And yeah, maybe we should do the same automatic grouping also for common prefix. For example, yeah, all the tables that begin with ice hockey are actually an ice hockey table, so we can put them in an ice hockey group, and then then leave the ice hockey prefix away. So you should see ice hockey and then expand the group and then see action participant, action place, etc. So we're actually making it more logical, even if you have quite a large database. You can see, for example, here they have also a lot of tables that use common prefixes to indicate where those tables belong to. And yeah, by grouping those things much more logical, we can actually make much more better sense in complex table structures. And well, maybe later on we'll even have a more nicely diagrams that can be drawn by that, etc. Some other questions in that?
Just one more, please, George. Say I've got a person, and one of the field names is name. Then, as in the attached table or subtable, I've got documents also with a what is it? A field name called name. How do those two names then get separated?
Well, they belong to the table, so they are always prefixed with the table name.
Okay.
Before. So
fantastic.
when you do a query, actually, I'm not sure if I have queries here. Maybe I can show you. But you can see here already. Well, those fields belong to the cars table because the table name is prefixed, and those cars images, well, it's a subtable in this case, and well, you can see here you can see the real name of the subtable that it's been prefixed by the parent car images, and I'm doing a join here. And if I add here more fields, they all get prefixed by the table name, so you can see where they belong to. And this is always done to avoid indeed duplicate names. And you can always, even if you don't like the name image, you can always add an alias and let it be called something else. And in output, this will become the new name instead of the image, for example. So yeah, you can do your naming as you wish. Anything else in that?
Quick question from my side, if possible. When you already are importing a database that's already been created and it's a long-standing database that's been around for a while, sometimes when I bring it into Database Manager, it doesn't quite understand the foreign keys that I've already put there. Like I've done it through a Database Manager manually. I haven't done it through the Wappler Database Manager at that time, and it doesn't seem to bring it in underneath each other correctly. I'll end up sometimes actually recreating those tables and importing the data to get Database Manager to nest it all pretty like that for me.
Yeah, the nesting is pretty new, and yeah, we've optimized it a couple of times, but yeah, we're trying to do that according to the naming convention that I show you. So subtables really have to begin in your database with the parent table as prefix.
Okay, so I could cheat it by actually changing the name of the tables rather, and giving the same convention as Wappler, and then it would suddenly understand it.
Yeah, probably. Okay. But even if it doesn't really, if you follow the convention, it will display them nicely as nested.
Yeah.
But well, if it doesn't find them as nested, it will just display them in the main level. But then you'll see indeed the full table name, and you don't have the advantage of the shortage. But yeah, we try to be smart and pick up indeed as much as possible rules. And there is actually a lot of logic behind the matching. For example, we take care of singularity of plurality form. So like you you have an affiliations here with an S, and
Yeah.
the subtable can be called affiliation underscore something else. So it ignores the S as plural form. So these kind of things are already in there, but it's pluralisation only in English, of course. So so if you are using some other languages or conventions, it might not get detected. But usually, we try to when the prefix is correctly with the same as the parent table, and there is a key defined as a relation between those two tables, then we should pick it up. And the difference between a single subtable or a multi-reference is multi-reference have just more than one reference actually, while a simple subtable actually has just a single reference to the parent.
Okay, perfect.
So
Thank you.
it should be picked up. Here you can see, for example, I have a process, steps, and actually a translations, which are nested. And they have just a single reference to the parent, and then they are seen as a simple subtable. And if they have two references, well, because they're referring also to another table, then that it makes many relations. So then it's being detected as a multi-reference.
Okay.
So but it's if you think that you follow the convention and your table still doesn't display, you should report it on the community, and we'll check it out. Maybe there is a case that we haven't been covered yet, and it's pretty new, so it's like only a couple of weeks old, and every week we have different cases, and we try to make it as smart as possible, but we might have missed some situation. And also the different databases, it's quite a challenge to be able to handle them all. And that's why I also have test cases for MySQL, and then Postgres and Microsoft SQL Server. So they all have different conventions, and with Database Manager, we make it actually possible that they all work the same. So for you, it doesn't matter which database it's below, but for us, it's quite challenging because those databases are really different, and we have to test them all. And MySQL and MariaDB, for example, are pretty similar, but still, there are some differences, and we try to hide those differences as much as possible from you as a user to make your work much more convenient. But we have to deal with those internally. For example, was there a recent case that in MariaDB, if you had a JSON field type, it wasn't detected as JSON, and but it was just because MariaDB has a different way of handling JSON fields than the MySQL. While they should be pretty much similar databases, but still there are differences. And MariaDB is actually in some areas much more advanced than MySQL, because they're really open source, and I'll definitely suggest it as a better to use better MariaDB than MySQL. But we try to take care of all the differences. So you should work without seeing much troubles. But if you see that something is not recognized, well, do report it on the forum, and
will do. Thank you, George.
Cover it. Any other questions? No.
We have a teaser for Wappler 5.
Well, no, it's not a teaser. We tease you with the logo already. So there we see. It's not much yet to show. So we do hope in the next few weeks to get the first beta version out. So then you can all start trying it. And for us, it's quite a challenge because it's not only the visual outside things that are changing. We're also switching to a lot of internal new things, because maybe we are using Electron, for example, to run Wappler in all the different platforms. And then we're using a lot of native functionality to make for example, the database editor, to make the JIT as fast as possible. So a lot of native functionality is being used, but we are switching to a new major version of Electron, and we have to make sure that everything works. And so that's why the beta period will be very nice to test for major changes. And we can start introducing some new features, like some of the UI redesigning that we plan to. And the good thing about beta is that you can always switch between the stable and the beta. So you can try the new functionalities out, and if the beta crashes a little bit more, then it's not a big problem. But then during the beta, we hope to show you some of the new stuff, and it gives us also a chance to rework some of the internals without making too much troubles actually. And so we have a long list of features that were waiting for such a big trial. So during the beta, we'll put them all in and see how it goes. So we are listening very carefully to you in the community. So all the feedback is very welcome, and I'm also very enthusiastic that a lot of people are participating with ideas about the interface and how things should go. And we have a lot of areas to address, like deployment, for example, but also visual designing and stuff that really needs to be optimized. But we can do it at once, and by doing it stepwise, we can collect your feedback and then decide whatever to go in that direction or not. So it's challenging, but it's very exciting to see if you like some new functionality or not, and whatever we should go more in that area. So it's more a dynamic way of introducing new features. But we like it a lot, because each week we can put a lot of new stuff and see directly the feedback of you as users, and we can go from there. And because we can think a lot of new improvements before, and work on them for months, and then put them finally there, and maybe you don't like them or you don't need them, and that's too late. And by using such a dynamic update cycle as the weekly cycle that we have, we can do so much more indeed. And you can see the different improvements that we have done in the database manager, but also the continuous improvements in the frameworks that we support, the Server Connect and App Connect. There are a lot of major changes that we have introduced during the way, and it's great. And if there are some breaking changes, like we did with App Connect, the recent speed update that we had, we were really afraid that some things might break. But by introducing them as a beta extensions, for example, the beta channel that you can just temporarily switch to, test it on your website, and then switch back if you have some problems. It's much more easier for us to do the final testing. And you see that sometimes the real bugs pop up when you really put the new stuff on your website, and we can try to prevent as much as possible before that, but the real things come when you start using it. And that's why I'll really advise to everybody to stay on the latest version, even yeah, even if it's maybe sometimes when we introduce too enthusiastic a new feature, it might break some stuff, but yeah, if it's really critical, we try to fix it directly so that you don't have any downtime with your websites. But yeah, the final test of everything is when you start using it, and yeah, we can test it as much as possible before that, but yeah, you're the real user, so the real problems pop up when you start using it. So that's why, yeah, sorry.
One of the things I like best is the experimental switch where you can turn things on and off, which was really well. And one of the best part of working with Wappler is every Thursday is Christmas.
Well, we try to make it Christmas every Thursday, so I'm glad that you like it so much. So, but it's all based on your feedback. As I said, we can try to imagine all the new features, but it's actually you that are suggesting and asking for stuff in the community that triggers our ideas and say, oh, we haven't thought of that. But because you're working on all those different cases, it triggers us to bring up new ideas. And when we implement those ideas, we can directly see the feedback from you. And that's what we like. We see that our work is really positive to all the users, and if it's received so well, it only makes us happy and empowers us to do even more. So
sounds good. Sounds good. Well, we've been at it for about an hour and a half now. Does anybody have any other questions for George or the team? Any suggestions or comments for future meetups?
Mobile apps would be my big request. someone to just to start a basic Android iOS app.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an excellent suggestion, John. Thank you very much.
Right.
All right. Well, I thank everybody for participating today. First Friday of June will be Bob demoing a website built 100% in Wappler. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I wish you all a very safe and prosperous month, and I look forward to chatting with you on the forum.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Take care now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone.
John, hang on for me here.
Yep, will do.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
How do I quit? Oh, here we go.
Red button, bottom right corner. John, I'm not sure what's going to happen here at the end since you're now the host. I feel one of us is going to get the video, or maybe both.
You probably will, because I think it's on your Skype account, your Zoom account.
Right.
So I'll stop the recording now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Stop cloud record.